rains in Rochdale with the same fine rain that we have in Northern Ireland. In the Basque Country, and we'll get to the Basque Country, they have a word for it. The Zirimiri. You look outside and you think it's nothing, barely rain at all. So you go out without a raincoat or umbrella, and by the time you get back, it has soaked right in.
It's an unassuming looking little store. Not one you would think to trouble the big hitters, the Asda's, the Tesco's, the other retail giants. And yet something happened here when the store was founded in 1844 that was to have worldwide repercussions, and indeed may yet present us with a model for a more sustainable, a fairer and a more democratic way of doing business.
This store is the site of the origin of the modern cooperative movement. Some 28 weavers who'd been unable to win better wages and conditions from then all-powerful mill owners saved up and opened their own store to be run honestly and democratically. Within months, the 28 grew to the hundreds, then to the thousands, and the idea spread across the country. Within a couple of decades, it had got as far as Japan. But that's not to say the pioneers didn't have to struggle to make it work.
Even some of those who might have been expected to be allies turned out perhaps not to be. John Bright here, who was a liberal and indeed even a radical MP from Rochdale, his father had a cotton mill, campaigned on behalf of working men to get them the right to vote. He opposed the Confederate slave-owning side in the American Civil War, and yet he opposed women's rights, and he opposed factory acts and trade unions that might have given the working people who even worked in his own mill the chance of some sort of empowerment.
The mill owners of the time had economic power. They could hire and fire. They had legal power. They could shape and apply laws. And they had ideological and propaganda power. They had the ear of the owners of newspapers. The Rochdale pioneers showed that working people could take back that first form of power, economic power, for themselves by starting up their own democratically run business, forming a cooperative enterprise in which they, the workers, were also the owners.
Little wonder the idea spread like wildfire. It was a way for disempowered people to take power back into their own hands. And arguably nowhere was this done more successfully than here in the town of Mondragon in the Basque Country.
It was in this town, in the wake of the Spanish Civil War, that a priest, José María Arizmendiarrieta, set up first a technical school open to all, and then, in 1955, the first cooperative in what was to become the Mondragon Corporation. I joined a small group visit to their headquarters to find out more from Ander Echeverria, the worker owner in charge of cooperative dissemination. The statistics are impressive. There are 98 cooperatives in the Federation. They have 143 subsidiaries around the world, though these are not cooperatives, and they have 25 other organisations. All told, Mondragon provides employment for some 74,000 workers. Intriguingly, for such a large enterprise, headquarters, itself a cooperative, has only 60 workers. This is because the cooperatives are self-governing, with major strategic decisions being taken at a General Assembly and daily executive decisions taken by democratically appointed managers, as Ander explained.
The thing is that if we meet only once per year, it's not possible to run a cooperative. So another thing that we have to decide in the General Assembly is who between us is going to manage the cooperative. I have the list of all the members. I'm member, so I'm part of this list, and we vote. And we are going to elect the people of the governing council. Who is in the governing council? We have vote, and they have been elected the expert on Android, the warehouse technician, the milling machine technician, the receptionist, and they say, I have no idea about management. And we say from the headquarters, don't worry, you're going to go to Otalora, our training center. So they go to Otalora, they have a course, and after the course they say, well, I know much more than before, but I don't feel okay to manage the cooperative. So they, not all of us, but they are going to elect a general manager. And the general manager is going to elect her team.
As well as being democratically structured then, Mondragon also provides training for those elected to manage. Moreover, it has a policy of retraining and relocation for members where one cooperative has to reduce staff, with its own social security system, Lagunaro, to cover the transition.
Lagunaro knows about the situation of each cooperative, if there are vacancies or not. Lagunaro is on charge of training people that have no work, members, and Lagunaro is going to pay us the unemployment benefit for 2 years. No one person in our history has extinguished this 2 years period. And they call this not unemployment aid, but employment aid, in positive, ayuda al empleo.
Mondragon remains the largest federation of worker-owned cooperatives in the world. It's worth noting that the region in which it's based has many other cooperatives who are not part of the group. The region also generally has the lowest unemployment rate in the whole of Spain and the lowest inequality. Perhaps this has something to do with the fact that the highest paid person in a Mondragon cooperative gets only 6 times the salary of the lowest paid. For comparison, in the UK, the CEOs of the top 100 companies are paid an average of 386 times more than someone on the national living wage. Yet somehow the far more equal and democratic Mondragon Corporation, complete with its own cooperative bank and its own cooperative university, remains in business, remains competitive, and continues to thrive.
This square is the one named after the founder of the cooperative movement here in Arasate, Mondragon. And as you can see, it's surrounded by modern looking buildings, quite different from the ones that he would have known when he first came here. And indeed the square itself is rather an open, blank, concrete space. But perhaps that's in some ways quite appropriate. The achievement of the cooperative movement here has been a concrete one. And in terms of the openness of this space, well, the cooperative movement itself, as we've seen, was founded as far back as the 1840s in Rochdale, but there's a sense in which it's still an open field of possibilities. It's underexplored, and it's something that, with a bit of luck and a bit of hard work, one could build upon.
So could we build such a movement in Northern Ireland? Well, of course there are already cooperatives, something we'll look at more closely in the next film in this series. But in order to allow a more democratic economy to grow, we're going to need something of a change in political climate.
When I was in Mondragon, I asked Ander how we could embed the idea of economic democracy, build a new Mondragon here in Northern Ireland. He told me that one of the original founders of the original cooperative, used to talk about Father Arithmin Diareta's ideas as being like the fine rain. At first people didn't notice. At first you don't pay attention, but it rains and it rains until there comes a point when all of a sudden you realise you've been soaked through. The answer, as Anders said, is in the Zirimiri.